Alive or dead, it's your choice.
Picture this: Beverly Hills, 1993. The lobby of the Four Seasons hums with Oscar winners, producers in slick Armani, and agents flashing business cards like throwing stars. Near the grand piano stands Clint Eastwood, stone-faced, arms folded, eyes like twin gun barrels. Across the room, a cocky young actor minds cheap laughs with a spot-on Eastwood impression, squinting and drawling, "Well, do you feel lucky?"
But I think they're going to get away from the obvious cliches.
Everyone howls, except Clint. He drains his whiskey, tips the bartender, and walks out without a word. No showdown, no raised voice, just pure, final silence. By morning, the actor's name is already fading from casting sheets. And Hollywood whispers, "Did Clint hear? Why did that one mocking line erase a career?"
But there's so many things that can go right and so many things that can go wrong from the inception of the project.
3 decades later, the answer finally surfaces, along with 4 other names Eastwood crossed out forever. Because when the quietest gunslinger in film history cuts you off, the echo lasts a lifetime. Stick around, and you'll learn who those 5 unlucky stars are, how they triggered Clint's silent wrath, and why even at 95 he can still end a feud without firing a single shot.
At some point, you have to do a lot of balancing acts to get this out, to make it a movie.
Michael Moore. A decade after Unforgiven made him Hollywood's stoic king, Clint Eastwood stepped on stage at the 2005 National Board of Review Gala to accept a career honor. Cameras flashed, champagne fizzed, and documentary provocateur Michael Moore sat dead center, grinning behind wire rim glasses. Clint thanked the crowd, then, without a wink, dropped a line that froze every smile. "Michael Moore and I have something in common. We both love documentaries. But if he ever shows up on my porch with a camera, I'll end him." Nervous laughs fizzled into coughs. Eastwood didn't grin, didn't clarify. He stepped back to silence, as thick as desert dust. Why so cold? In Clint's mind, Moore's smash hit Fahrenheit 9/11 had crossed a line. It turned fallen soldiers into political ammunition and painted wartime sacrifice as a marketing ploy. Clint, son of a Depression drifter, Korean-era Army vet, the man who saluted flag-draped coffins in flags of our fathers, saw it as pure exploitation. Hollywood insiders say he called the film grandstanding dressed as patriotism, and he wasn't about to let its architect ambush him for another headline. The fallout was swift and silent. Studio chiefs quietly scrubbed Moore-related pitches from Clint's desk. Festival coordinators made sure the 2 men never shared a Q&A panel. Reporters fishing for quotes got nothing but a flint-eyed stare. Moore tried to joke later that Clint had simply misplaced his sense of humor, yet even he admitted he'd never knock on that porch. Nearly 20 years on, Eastwood has never uttered Moore's name in public again, never screened a single Moore film at his fabled Mission Ranch Theater, and never lifted the quiet embargo. In a town where feuds explode on Twitter, Clint's revenge was colder and scarier because it came without a sound.
I was there through most of it, and my company produced and everything, but it's just, sometimes you have to sit back.
Spike Lee. Spike Lee never whispers. And in 2008, he aimed his megaphone straight at Clint Eastwood's newest war epics. Flags of Our Fathers and its twin letters from Iwo Jima stormed critics' lists for their brutal honesty. But at a Cannes press scrum, Lee lobbed a grenade. Where are the Black Marines? Many African Americans died on that island. You can't erase them. Reporters lit up. Twitter was still a newborn, yet the quote ricocheted across every blog. Eastwood, fresh off directing back-to-back 6-month shoots, was told of the remark while scouting locations. He lifted one eyebrow, and according to bystanders, muttered a line worthy of Dirty Harry. A guy like that should shut his face. 2 titans, 2 visions of history. One static spark that turned into a bonfire. Lee doubled down, saying he'd never quiet down for some angry old man. Eastwood answered by not answering. He shelved press requests, canceled a round table that would have placed them together, and pushed ahead with Oscar season as if Lee's words never existed. Insiders claim a studio peace talk was proposed, Lee would moderate a screening, Clint would discuss representation. But Eastwood declined with a single sentence. "My story's my story." For Lee, that decision proved his whole point. Hollywood's gatekeepers decide whose sacrifice makes the cut. For Eastwood, the accusation felt like rewriting facts to fit quotas. The silence hardened into bedrock. No shared panels, no polite nod at award shows, not even a retweet of mutual praise over the years. And so the standoff stands, each director guarding his hill of truth.
There is kind of a reputation that precedes movie companies of
Leonardo DiCaprio. From the moment Leonardo DiCaprio walked onto the set of J. Edgar in early 2011, crew members sensed a collision coming. Old-school gunslinger versus method acting thoroughbred. Clint Eastwood ran his sets like a military patrol. Arrive at dawn, rehearse once, roll the camera, capture raw instinct, move on before the coffee got cold. DiCaprio was the opposite. He liked deep dives, layers, trial runs that peeled emotion like an onion. Day 1, Scene 1. Leo asked for a fresh take to explore Hoover's nervous tic. Clint glanced at the monitor, said, "Got it," and called for the next setup. The request died in the dust. By week 2, the clash was a silent tango. DiCaprio pacing between takes, mining notes with his dialect coach, while Eastwood waited at the camera truck, arms folded, jaw set. No one shouted. Tension whispered in the cables underfoot. A gaffer quipped it was like watching a racehorse forced to sprint in cowboy boots. The film wrapped on schedule, but insiders swear Clint skipped the customary thank you toast, offering only a stiff nod before leaving the wrap party after 10 minutes. Promotion season confirmed the chill. Eastwood praised costume design, cinematography, even the craft services team, never Leo by name. DiCaprio returned the courtesy with generic compliments about legendary direction, yet every interviewer caught the sub-zero subtext. Hollywood waited for their next collaboration. None came. Eastwood, who rehires favorites like Morgan Freeman and Bradley Cooper for project after project, never dialed DiCaprio's number again. Some chalk it up to creative mismatch. Others whisper Clint branded Leo, too high maintenance, too theater. Whatever the truth, the divide remains. In Eastwood's quiet code, one hard shoot equals a closed door forever.
you know, critics are just like anybody else. They have their opinion, and you hope it's very flattering to your ego.
Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen thought 140 characters were harmless, but one tweet detonated like a misthrown grenade. January 18th, 2015. American Sniper is bulldozing the box office. Veterans groups are cheering, pundits are fighting, and Clint Eastwood is quietly pleased his low-budget war drama is smashing records. Then Rogen fires off a late-night observation. The film kinda reminds me of that movie within Inglourious Bastards, where the Nazi sniper picks off allies. In less than an hour, the post rockets across blogs, cable panels, and morning radio. Journalists frame it as Rogen calling Eastwood's tribute pure propaganda. Military families flood his mentions with fury, and Hollywood publicists stare at their phones, wondering if Clint will finally break his silence online. He doesn't. No tweet, no press release, not even a terse, "make my day." Insiders say Eastwood was blindsided during a mixing session for his next project. He listened, squinted, and went back to work without comment. But the chill was immediate. Warner Brothers executives quietly scrubbed Rogen's name from 2 shortlists. A casting director who suggested him for a supporting role in a comedy was allegedly told, "Not while the paint's still wet." 3 days later, Rogen backpedaled, insisting he never meant to label the movie propaganda. "I actually liked it," he wrote, but the damage was carved in granite. Eastwood's circle treats public ridicule like a silent disqualifier. You disrespect the troops he honored, you disrespect him. 7 years on, Rogen has never shared a stage, screen, or Zoom square with Clint, and auditions that would cross their paths mysteriously evaporate. In a town where apologies usually heal overnight, Eastwood's quiet freeze remains glacial.
I think it's time for me to move on with other things. And
Gene Hackman. Night settled over the Alberta foothills in 1991, and the set of Unforgiven glowed under flood lamps like a frontier camp. At one end of the street, Clint Eastwood monitored camera angles in near silence, hands tucked into his duster pockets. At the other, Gene Hackman rehearsed Sheriff Little Bill's brutal monologue, spitting dust and fury into the chill night air. Hackman was famous for testing directors, rewriting lines on the fly, shifting marks if the mood struck. Most filmmakers bent. The first clash came on day 3. Hackman halted a take, turned, and said, "This line's flat. I'm cutting it." A hush fell. Eastwood stepped forward, voice just above a whisper. "You will?" No threat, just granite certainty. The crew resumed. Hackman kept the line, but the temperature never thawed. For 6 weeks, tension coiled through every setup. Clint's one-take efficiency met Hackman's volcanic search for perfection. Between scenes, the star paced, muttering revisions. Clint waited at the lens, stopwatch mind ticking. They never cursed, never shouted. Too professional for that. Instead, they wielded silence like dueling pistols, each minute of quiet saying more than 1,000 arguments. When production wrapped, Eastwood offered the briefest handshake before driving himself back to the hotel. Hackman skipped the wrap party altogether. At the 1993 Oscars, they smiled for cameras, brandished their statues, then drifted to opposite ends of the governor's ball and never crossed paths again. Clint invited Morgan Freeman back for 3 more pictures, Richard Harris for 2. Hackman's phone stayed silent. Industry vets still debate who was right. Some call Hackman fearless, unwilling to compromise craft. Others say he underestimated a director who values loyalty over laurels. Hackman retired by 2004. Eastwood powered on, and their lone collaboration sits like a canyon between them. Beautiful, brutal, echoing with things left unsaid. Fast forward to 2025 and you'll see the same silent code still ruling Clint Eastwood's world. Only now the stakes hover over a 95-year-old legend who refuses to coast into retirement. Last fall, he unveiled Juror Number 2, a lean courtroom thriller that bowed at AFI Fest, slipped into barely 50 U.S. theaters, then vanished onto Max 6 weeks later. Reviewers cheered, box office trackers shrugged, and Eastwood never complained. Insiders say he simply grinned at Warner's peculiar rollout and moved on to the edit bay. As always, letting the work, not the war, do the talking. But Hollywood didn't get long to celebrate. 2 weeks before Clint's 95th birthday, an Austrian newspaper splashed a so-called exclusive interview in which he supposedly blasted today's filmmakers for rehashing franchises like desperate street magicians. The quotes lit up social feeds till Eastwood dropped a 3-line statement calling the piece phony from start to finish. No press tour, no lawsuits, just that blunt dismissal and a promise to keep telling stories while others argued about them. Within days, the paper issued a mea culpa, blaming a freelancer and scrubbing the article from its site. Proof yet again that Clint's quickest weapon is a single, ice-cold correction. All of which circles back to the code he's followed since that 4 seasons walkout. Speak softly, shoot straight, and remember, every slight. If a studio buries his film, he'll still premiere it on his terms. If a journalist fabricates words, he'll erase the lie with 1 sentence. And if anyone thinks age has dulled his aim, Juror Number 2 and that shredded interview show, the gunslinger is still wide awake, watching, and ready to draw without ever raising his voice. Clint Eastwood's career isn't just a collection of movies. It's a living rulebook on power and restraint. 5 times, we watched him cross a line in the sand against Michael Moore's politics, Spike Lee's history lesson, Leonardo DiCaprio's method obsession, Seth Rogen's careless tweet, and Gene Hackman's fiery pride. Each clash ended the same way. No shouting, no courtroom drama, only an ironclad silence that closed doors and changed careers. Even now, at 95, he edits new films, swats down fake interviews, and proves a single measured sentence can shake the internet harder than 1,000 rants. So here's the question. Is that unbending code admirable discipline or unforgiving pride? Drop your take below. Every comment sparks the next story. If this deep dive into Hollywood grudges kept you hooked, hit like to let us know. Subscribe for the legends he quietly admired, and tap the bell so you never miss the untold truth still waiting in the wings.